you choose these 10 speakers?
The choice of speakers, it comes out through a variety of things. So sometimes people will drop me an email saying, I'm going somewhere or I've just been somewhere. Other times people email me and tell me about a friend of theirs who's doing something. Or I pick up something on Facebook and I just see these things. And then over a period of a couple of months, I'll write stories on the FEAT website about these people and what they're doing, and often I follow their adventures because sometimes it goes on for a couple of months, other ones are much shorter. And then I look at the disciplines and I try and get a mix and range of disciplines, so to get things that weren't featured last year. So, and to get a whole mix, so like this year we had Space Camp. I've never had Space Camp on. Riverboarding is a relatively new discipline, so we had that one on. David Wadelove with the Freedom Challenge, I've been trying to get him. This is my third year lucky, because every year FEAT has been the night before the Fisher River Canoe Marathon, which he always paddles. So sometimes the things are on the cards and I keep my eye on it, and so I just make up a mix. And literally, like, I've got 10 speakers here. I could have put another 10 speakers on the stage. You can't believe what South Africans are doing all the time. They are all over the world. They are doing different disciplines, amazing adventures. The variety out there is just incredible, but I've only got space for 10.
It's crazy. I was listening to the audience, like, when Chris was, last speaker, and everyone's like,
yeah. Because also the pace, FEAT is quite a different format, being only 7 minutes long. So you can have a number of different disciplines and varieties on. I think it's that pace of the 7 minutes that makes, you're here for 2.5 hours. That makes that 2.5 hours just completely disappear, because you're captivated and enthralled by each of the stories, and such different stories. And I mean, so you see a lot of the people, some of them are just normal people. They're not professional adventurers. They don't do this stuff for a living. They just go and do things that they want to do.
It shows that everyone else can do it.
Totally.
Which is great.
Yeah.
My question is just how would you afford it, and work on the side and...
I've got no idea what some people do, and I mean it's worldwide. And for me, everyone has an adventure burning in their heart. Some people see out that adventure depending on also what their lifestyles and commitments and family and home is like, where they go and do mountain bike races and they go and do road races, and that keeps it under control and fulfills that and makes you content. You're getting out and doing things. And then you get another group of people who, for them, that's not enough. And that's the people often who come onto the FEAT stage, who want to do things that are more challenging to them, more creative, more dynamic, different sort of things. So that's a lot of the people who get on FEAT stage, and they're not happy just to do organized events. They create and plan their own things that they want to do. When you're looking at things that take a year or take multiple months, sometimes people work, and they'll work hard jobs for a couple of years at a time, and then they resign, and then they go off and do whatever they want to do. Other times, if people have their own businesses, maybe during the quieter months, they can take 3 months off and go and do things. And a lot of these adventures don't necessarily cost a lot of money. And particularly when you do things that are unsupported, and when you cycling or running from place to place, and you're picking up food there and you're cooking your own food, it's low cost. But once you start doing expeditions with multiple people, support crews, support vehicles, you're doing accommodation, and then you bring in the media and the filming and the everything, it's not necessary. If you really want to do something that is burning in your heart and is something you want to do, there's ways and means, but sometimes it might take a couple of years before you actually get there to be able to do it. So you can't forget these things. You can't forget them. You've got to keep them in your mind and just say, you know what, I'm going to get to it. But you've also got to say, within the next 5 years, within the next 10 years, because those years go fast. They go fast, yeah.
So in reading your email and also you mentioning that you went to Argentina, what's your next mission?
Argentina is in fact still my mission. So talking about things that take years, I had been to do event coverage in Chile. Must have been the second time I went there was beginning of 2006. And I came back and said, you know what, I've got to learn Spanish because I so enjoyed the experience, but you can't talk to people. So I did a beginner Spanish course when I came back, loved it, picked it up quickly, and thought, I really need to go back for a couple of weeks and do intensive lessons, something I want to do. Well, 7 years later, I finally did it. And I loved it so much, loved the environment. My Spanish is just starting to come. And in order to get any better, I have to go back. So I've just been doing a TEFL English teaching course at the moment. And with the idea, so with the idea that I can go back probably winter months next year and hopefully get a contract job for a couple of months teaching English and learning Spanish. So that's my mission, and until I get this out my system, it's now my absolute focus is that I want to be not necessarily perfectly fluent in Spanish, but I want to be comfortably conversant.
So what would your advice be to all those who have that adventure just burning inside of them?
First, don't forget it. So either write it down or put it somewhere. Yeah, it takes time to get around to these things and to get the money and to get the time. But also sometimes we think too big, and we think that we must scale the highest mountains and go from the one side of the Himalayas to the other side. You don't have to do that, but also you can break it up. So you take one trip there, and then the next year go back and do the next section, and the next trip go back and do the next section. So it's about making the adventures that you want to do feasible in your life in terms of finances, family commitments, responsibilities, all those kind of things. And when everything finally gets too much, I mean, like Richard Kohler resigned from his job and went running with his push pram. Those adventures are not expensive to do. So we put all these barriers in our mind, and we build up all these obligations, we build up all these responsibilities, and I'm guilty of exactly the same thing. I've got so many ideas in my head, and 10 years later I still haven't done any of them. So it's really about just getting around when that burn becomes too much to resist. Give into it and just do those things you want to do. There's no other way to do it.
So fantastic. I mean, I'm sure myself and everyone here, I'm sure after FEAT, they're just like gonna do it. I mean, I'm feeling so inspired.
Well, then FEAT has accomplished what it's meant to accomplish. I always say to people, like, come to FEAT, enjoy the talks, but if you decide to resign from your job when you walk out of here, I do take full responsibility for that. So then FEAT has accomplished what it's meant to do. It's meant to remind you about those things you forget and the things that you push to the background, and say, you know what, well, he did something over a weekend, or they did something, that they'd been wanting to do, and it was a step-by-step progression to achieve what they wanted to do. Then that's what FEAT's about. It's about reminding you of what you want to do.